Hello everyone, Leafreed here, and today we have The Wizard's Stone by Herman P. Hunter. Now, there's a funny little story behind this. Obviously, this is a more contemporary book. Usually, I don't read modern literature because, frankly, it's just all the same to me. It just all reads the same. I crack open a book, I know that what this character is going to say, what that character is going to say, it's not interesting. But I was at a literature convention, and this was the one book that stood out to me. Just because of how it was written. It was really interesting how Herman describes very specific kinds of things or moods or feelings. And it's almost like Tolstoy. I mean, Tolstoy's the master, right? But this is the one thing that reminded me of it. So The Wizard's Stone, it is very, I would say, generic fantasy novel, but I found it was written rather well. And because I was at this convention, I went through each book, picked them up, read a couple pages. This is the only one that stood out to me, and so because of that, I bought it, and I had Herman even sign it, I believe. Oh, yeah, there it is on the inside. So it was really cool meeting the author of a book and buying it from him directly. It was a very cool experience, and it was a fairly good book. I wouldn't say amazing or anything. I was one of those blown away. It's like you have to rush out and read this, but it was still not bad. It's interesting, the foreword and everything. Herman talks about his personal struggle about self-publishing, all the kind of, machinations that you have to go through. So that's actually kind of an interesting aspect of this book. But what is The Wizard's Stone about? Well, very, basic. There is a wizard in a tower, and he has his apprentice, who he essentially says, okay, now it's time for you to go out and see the world. And so he hires a mercenary called Enoch, who is this gruff, buff mercenary guy, to basically be his bodyguard and escort him and his stone to this other wizard, basically, or this king, rather. And it's all kind of veiled in mystery. No, he's not really telling him much. What's like why he's doing this and why he's going. And the main character's name is called Odo, and he's this younger, like 16-year-old boy with staff, and he's just learning things. And Odo is this much older. Enoch is this much older guy who is like a seasoned veteran. So there's this chemistry between the two, where you have like the new guy, and so there's this whole arc where Enoch says to Odo, okay, you need to make a fire trap spell so that we can kill these guys. And Odo's like, well, I don't want to kill living creatures. And he's like, but they're going to kill us. And Enoch, and there's so many scenes where Enoch is like this close to losing it. And he's a very fun character. And I think the banter in this book is actually fairly good. Yeah, it's about 300 pages, pretty decently spaced out in terms of the font there. I'll just read you a random excerpt from the book. As Odo stood there at the railing, his heart bristled. See, immediately, it didn't say his heart, like this guy, he's got synonyms. I don't know, he's just like, I understand, like it didn't thump or shudder, it bristled. So, there you go. He had read much about the history of the Oncathar. Now he found himself deep in their dominion, only to be stuck on that accursed ship with a man who had barely spoken a dozen words since they met. Instead, he could be among the Oncathar in their village, to see firsthand their homes and their lives, to taste their food, hear the songs they sang, listen to their stories and lore for himself, to know more than what the dusty tomes told him and what he could imagine in his mind's eye. Odo let out a sigh, which resonated as much disappointment as it did disgust. Still, he could not tear his eyes away, nor could he stop his mind from imagining what lay hidden in the bosom of those mountains, beyond the veil of trees and brush. I don't know what it is. I love this. It is so... it has a flow to it. It has a flow and an expression, and you can visualize the emotion, if you will, and it's not overdone. It's not like some book where it goes on and on about, oh, and he was feeling whatever. No, it just gets right to the point, and it's almost metaphorical. His heart bristled, and it said he let out a sigh, which was disappointment and disgust. So you get a more distinct feeling of, you can see what Otto is feeling, what he is doing. And that's the parts that reminds me of Tolstoy, is that Tolstoy would, the way he would describe a certain character is, say, the character would make a tick with their mouth that signalized a apprehensive hesitation. But he would write it in such a way that you just could see exactly the person and their tropes and their mood and everything, and you could immediately understand what they're thinking. And it's so visual. When Tolstoy writes, it's so visual, and this is kind of similar to that. Obviously, I'm not going to put anyone on Tolstoy's level, but again, this is what reminded me of it, and it's just that ability to take the words and paint a picture with your mind, and to see it as if it were right there happening in front of you. I just love the way this is written. How is the story itself? It's not anything super amazing. I'm not gonna, whatever. It's, there's a wizard, goes on a quest, he gets character development, he meets this band of mercenaries, and, the mercenaries, protect him, and then there's conflict, and some of them die, and it's all very kind of, whatever, like, he's a wizard, and there's not much there, and there's an evil wizard, and he has to eventually, I think of one great scene that sticks out. What I really retained from this book, is there's one scene where they're being chased. This evil wizard has summoned this, like, fish-like claw creature to chase them, and Otto and Enoch end up basically taking refuge in a barn, and what's happened is Enoch, the protector, is severely wounded, and this is a very, very dangerous guy. And for the first time, Otto realizes, oh no, I'm the one who has to help him. I have to defend him, and he has to find the strength in himself to not only help Enoch, but also to realize that he is in control of his destiny, that he can't rely on his master or anyone to protect him, that it's up to him, and he goes and has this big confrontation. It's very epic and cool. And that was really nice. I think also what was interesting about this is the mercenary group. There's a character called Pretty Boy. You don't even learn his real name, but I think these one-note archetypical characters that are introduced into the story to be one-note are done really well. It's like, this is the guy who's, kind of a sleazeball, kind of like whatever. And then you have, like, the maid lady who's very, kind of buff and masculine and outspoken and resourceful. And the characters, they don't show up for terribly long, or some of them do, but for the purpose they serve, they were very visual and very distinct in my mind. I can still visualize what I painted Pretty Boy as, and the other characters that escape my name right now. But they all, I can't remember their names, but I can remember how I painted them in my mind and how Herman painted them, which was really cool. But the best part of this book is probably the banter between Enoch and Odo, the way they kind of banter, the way Enoch is always worried about, like, you're going to get me killed, you're going to get all of us killed, I don't know why the wizard paid me so much to escort you. And Odo's like, well, I'm trying my best, sir. It's very simple, but I would say it's pretty memorable. It's not bad. But yeah, it reminded me Herman, and like in the actual production of this book, it was interesting how his previous book, The Revenant in the Tomb, was like an online only book, which was like a couple chapters long, and it was served as just a preface for this book. And he went through all the years and support. Like, it took him a year to at least to make this, and then to fully publish it, and then how he had support from his friends and family. And reading about how this book was actually made is interesting in and of itself. And I'm not interested in how publishing books works, really. But yeah. it's just it's very simple and to the point, and I kind of like it for that. It's great for, I would think, teen but also adult literature. The way it's just written is enjoyable. That's the word I'm really looking for. It was enjoyable to read this. I didn't open up another, kind of contemporary modern novel and rolled my eyes immediately at the way it's written. They're all written the same, and if they're written differently, they're done in a weird way I can't enjoy. This one is very direct, to the point, Anyway, it's a simple, easy, to the point read. There's not any weird overtones or narratives or messaging. It's just a good book. It's all right. I'd recommend it. If I had to critique this book, there is one major critique I do have, and that's probably like the last 3 or so chapters. He's had the big battle. They've had the climactic point. They've reached their destination. They're safe. And the book just keeps going for like 3 more chapters. It's kind of like the first 3 chapters of the next book are in this book, and it just feels like way too much. And just, they're introducing like a new king, and then his, other magicians, and then they're in this area, and it's like, it feels like we're starting another movie when this one just ended, but it's like the director's cut version or something, and it feels like we're getting ready for a new adventure. But yeah, that's the only critique I really have of this. It's relatively short. It's not very terribly hard to understand. I would recommend this to a lot of people, honestly, because it's good, and it's not written in a convoluted, obtuse way. That is The Wizard's Stone by Herman P. Hunter. It was great meeting you, Herman, by the way. Anyway, that's the book. I recommend it, and as always, guys, keep on reading.